Hi guys, Olive here today with an original tag for Nonfiction November. A handful of times over my nearly 5 years here on Booktube, I have heard people make the assertion that there is no such thing as nonfiction Booktube. And I can't really blame them for thinking so. If people coming into our community think that Booktube is all YA, when really there's a thriving adult literature community, then it's really no surprise that it's not well known that there are nonfiction lovers making Booktube videos. I am very happy that people know me as a nonfiction lover within the community, but I am certainly not the only one. I wanted there to be a tag where we could talk about nonfiction, we can talk about what we love about it, and also we can introduce viewers to our taste in nonfiction, have them get to know us as nonfiction readers. I'm hoping that this tag can turn into a discovery tool so that fellow creators and Booktube viewers can be introduced to new creators that they might not have found otherwise. Nonfiction may not be as popular as fiction, but there are plenty of people in this community who love it, and it would be wonderful if more people knew about that. So let's discuss nonfiction in the Nonfiction on Booktube tag. Question number 1 is, how much nonfiction do you read? Before I started on Booktube, I would say about 75% of what I read was nonfiction. And then when I made a channel at the beginning of 2015, I honestly felt that I couldn't have a Booktube channel with that kind of a ratio. So I started incorporating more fiction into my reading life. And then it got to the point where fiction was 75% of my reading and nonfiction was 25%. I can't say at what point exactly it happened, but my reading started to organically migrate back to its original ratio. I have just come to terms with the fact that I am primarily a nonfiction reader. I have accepted it, and I am allowing myself to lean into that. I think if left unchecked, my reading will go toward a 60-40 split, 60% nonfiction, 40% fiction. I'd be happy with that. Question number 2 is, what's your favorite subgenre of nonfiction? It's so hard to choose because, as you will know if you watch this channel, I love science and nature books. But my favorite subgenre is probably memoir, and even more specifically, a science memoir or a nature memoir. I get weak in the knees. Question number 3 is, do you have a favorite nonfiction book? Well, stemming off of my previous answer, I think it's pretty safe to say that H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald is my favorite nonfiction book. This is a memoir of a woman who had a background in falconry, and after her father's sudden death, she gets this insatiable urge to train a goshawk, which is a notoriously difficult bird to train. This is the story of that unique experience dealing with grief, but it also doubles as a biography of the author T.H. White's, since Helen Macdonald is comparing her experience training her goshawk against T.H. White's experience training a goshawk, which he talks about in his book, The Goshawk. This book is such a unique mixture. It's part literary memoir, part biography, part natural history, and the writing is stunning. It's the book that got me obsessed with birds, so as hard as it is to pick a favorite, this one is very, very special to me. Question number 4 is, what do you think keeps people from wanting to read more nonfiction? I think people get the impression that it's boring, probably as a result of their experiences in school. Assigned reading can be enough to put people off of reading in general. But oftentimes, people will fall in love with a classic work of literature that they're assigned in school that will then stay with them. Like I know here in the States, a lot of people really grow fond of To Kill a Mockingbird or The Great Gatsby, but all the nonfiction you're assigned in school is probably from a textbook or is some other overly starched, unengaging work of nonfiction that the person would rather do anything but read. So who can really blame them for thinking that nonfiction isn't going to be fun? And then there's the fact that nonfiction can sometimes read slower than fiction does. So you have fiction readers going into nonfiction feeling like they don't have the same momentum, feeling like there's something different about the reading experience. I think readers who have tried some nonfiction in the past and have not had all that successful of an attempt with it are turned off from the idea when really that might just not have been the right nonfiction book for them. I think any or all of these things can combine to create this looming, musty image of nonfiction in people's minds. Like if it were personified, it would be an old guy in a dusty library wearing a brown sweater vest. And this leads me into question 5. Why do you like nonfiction? First and foremost, I like nonfiction because I have enough experience with it to know how not boring it is. The nonfiction that I know and love is vibrant and varied. It tells true stories from all over the world. I love nonfiction because I love to learn. I love to know what's going on in the world, and I love to hear how other people see and experience their own lives. I think reading nonfiction broadens your worldview, but also it's just really fun. Reading nonfiction is like being at an an amazing dinner party with all of these really worldly people who have all of these amazing stories that you can't believe actually happened. Question number 6. What's a nonfiction book you read because of Booktube? Quite a few, as you would expect, since that's just kind of the Booktube effect, but the one I will use to answer this question is Hammerhead, The Making of a Carpenter by Nina Mclaughlin. This is the memoir of a journalist who quit her desk job in order to become an apprentice to a carpenter despite having zero prior experience in the field. The amazing Kazan over at Always Doing recommended this book in one of her very early videos on her channel. After reading it, it became one of my top nonfiction books of the year so far. It's probably going to end up on my year-end nonfiction list. I love this book, and I'm so happy she recommended it. Question number 7 is, what's the best nonfiction book you've read lately? One I read just last month absolutely knocked my socks off. That is How to Catch a Mole by Marc. The author worked as a mole catcher for years, and these are his reflections on the daily job and also his time spent in nature, both as a part of the job and just in general. Each chapter is concluded with a poem. It is so beautiful. Question number 8 is, what are some of your nonfiction reading goals? That 60-40 split I was talking about earlier is definitely one of them. I also want to do a better job in keeping up with the new nonfiction releases that everyone is talking about, especially since I'm starting to do some written reviews as well. Keeping up with those front list nonfiction books seems like something that I both need to do, but also want to do. I would also like to branch out into other subgenres. I mean, biography is one I've read barely anything out of, unless it was on a Russian historical figure. Question number 9 is, what kind of nonfiction videos do you make or do you want to make on Booktube? I do already make quite a bit of nonfiction content on this channel, but of course, I would always like to do more reviews, more dual reviews specifically. I love doing those. More recommendations, all that good stuff. And question number 10 is, what's your advice for incorporating more nonfiction into one's reading diet? I always suggest that you start off by picking up books on topics in which you already have an interest. Like, do you have a fascination with a specific period in history? Do you have a favorite animal, a favorite city in the world? Pick up a nonfiction book on any of these things. Also, for fiction readers, I am a big fan of pairing fiction and nonfiction. So if you're reading a historical fiction book all about the Tudors, I suggest that you pick up a nonfiction book on the Tudors, read it at the exact same time. You'll get more out of both books. From there, once you've built up some momentum, bookish podcasts and of course, Nonfiction Booktube can give you some great recommendations. And of course, when you go into your local library or your local bookstore, be sure to look around the nonfiction section in addition to the fiction section. You will find a whole world to be discovered there. And as a bonus, give some recommendations of nonfiction Booktube channels that you love. This list could go on and on because there are so many channels that I love, but first off, I need to mention Emma over at A Cup of Books. She is a voracious reader. She's a very consistent uploader, and her reviews are fantastic. She is so personable in all of her videos. She is so much fun to watch. She reads a lot of nonfiction. Her taste is actually pretty similar to mine, and she absolutely loves reading about dinosaurs. I cannot recommend her channel enough. I would also like to draw your attention to Justin over at Ghost Reader. He is a prolific reviewer over on his channel. He also writes for Open Letters. He has a special interest in history books, in case that's your thing. He's also just an incredibly nice guy. And lastly, I'd like to once again recommend Heidi over at My Reading Life. I love her channel and her reading taste so much. She recently did this really big video ranking her top 50 nonfiction books of the past 5 years. And the whole time I was just nodding my head furiously in agreement with all of her selections, especially her top pick. Could not agree more. If you like my nonfiction selections, there is a very good chance you will like hers as well. So of course, I would like to tag the 3 people who I just recommended, but really I want anyone and everyone who talks about nonfiction on Booktube to do this tag. You can just go ahead and say that I've tagged you. As it stands right now, I know it's really difficult for nonfiction readers to find nonfiction booktubers on this platform, but it's my hope that if enough people do this tag, we will give viewers an easily searchable way to find nonfiction content creators. When you've done this tag, if you would like to leave me a link in my comment section, I would absolutely love that. Or if you have any other comments or questions about anything you've seen in this video or about anything in general, that can go in the comment section as well. But if you'd prefer to chat with me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.